Why? Okay, let's stop. Why?
You fly there, the day before you die, and you're in.
Not the day before. We fly there a few years. Why?
Well, you said just die. You didn't specify anything.
Yeah, just to die. Well, to end, spend the end of her life, but even just to die. My children are taking me to Maui to die.
What's so special about it?
You have to go there, but particularly what's special about it is that there's something called the aloha spirit, which is that everybody is warm to you. You know, when you say, "How are you?" people stop and tell you. When you're asked, "How are you?" and you tell someone, "Fine," or "I'm hurting today, and I need someone to listen to me," people listen to you. It is a very warm place, not just physically, but emotionally. Okay? It's just very warm there. The other, and this we're getting another realm, okay, we're jumping back and forth there, which is that there are a lot of fears about dying. We have a lot of fears about dying, and one is that we will cease to exist. You're going to become nothing. I'm going to become a no thing. I'm not going to exist. And we've known this thing for such a long time. And the idea of letting go of this thing, as I heard one of the gentlemen before, is one of our challenges, letting go. Because if you don't let go, you're going to suffer. Okay? You're going to resist. And we took my mother to the ocean. And we sat her by the ocean. And Mom, I say my kid brother too, there before he died, I and my kid brother would ask Yetta to breathe and to look out at the ocean, okay, and see that the ocean, you're 2,500 miles from anywhere else, so you don't really see too much land, is limitless, it's unbounding, okay? It goes on forever. And Mom, I want you to breathe in tune with that ocean. But also, Mom, look at the ocean. In the early morning, it's usually like this, like a sheet of ice. And then, as the trade winds come up, waves begin to emerge from the ocean. Just like we emerge from the universal. We are a wave that's emerging from the universal. And then the wave has a life. And the wave finally comes to its end. It crashes on the shore. And then the wave recedes back into the ocean and once again becomes one with all. Okay? Just like we know energy can neither be created nor destroyed. I'm telling you, when our bodies cease to exist, the molecules, the atoms that make up our body continue to exist. They just flow back and go into another form. And we take my mother up to Haleakala, which I did with my kid brother too. And Haleakala is like an extinct volcano, 11,000 feet high. And if you look into the volcano, it's as if you are existing in another time and space. And we just had our mom breathe, 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 and drift into that time and space. Okay? And forget for a moment that she's caught up in time. That she's caught up in time. This is something that I do on a regular basis, because I have some fears. I've worked with the dying, I've written with that, I teach a course, but I have some fears about ceasing to exist. I have some fears about becoming a no thing. And I know that those fears are within me, and if I don't work with them consciously, they're going to come out subconscious in a way that probably is not in my interest or the interest of the people around me. Yeah. So why Maui? It's a warm place all the time. When they saw the gentleman who I believe left there, when they saw my mom walk into the room when she was 24 or 27 years old, my mom was an incredible beauty. She was so beautiful. Her skin was so beautiful. She had these incredible eyes. She had long, flowing black hair. And she'd walk into the room, and the men would go, "Ga, ga, 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 ga." They didn't know what to do with her. They were overwhelmed by her beauty. Okay? And then, in Florida as she got older, but in New York too, she'd walk into a room, and now she's 80, 85, 70, and she's given birth to 4 children, she has varicose veins, her skin is sagging, her breasts are sagging there, she has wrinkles all over the place, and as the gentleman said before, people look at her and they don't want to see her. Because one of the reasons they don't want to see her is because they're seeing themselves. Okay? We're realizing one day, too, we will be like that, and we can't accept that. When we are with the dying, there are 2 people who are dying. The person who's dying and the person who is dying also, you. The person serves as a mirror image for what we will experience. And more often than not, we're dealing with our concerns, our fears, our inhibitions, not that person there. And unless we can accept the fact and work that, we will never give full attention to the person who is dying. We're always dealing with ourselves. We're always dealing with ourselves there. So when you walk into a room in Maui, where older people are still revered, where older people are associated with wisdom and knowledge, okay? She felt respected. She felt honored. Okay? She didn't feel like she didn't exist. And until the moment that we die, we want to know that we exist. We want to know that we're something. We want to know when we walk into a room that people look at us and say, you are a human being, you exist. That's one of the reasons we moved here, or among the reasons we moved here to Maui. Yeah. Let me go back to my mom again, because I'm going to, if you wish to live well, my mom is 89 years old. I knew my mom for a long time, not 89, but for a long time. And my mom was a very giving person. She gave very well, physically, Physically, she gave very well. What I mean by physically, I don't mean in terms of materially. If my father, came home and had to gamble away all the money that he usually did and stuff like that, she'd go down to the local grocer and use her charm and goodwill to get 5 cents worth of potatoes. And this was 5 cents for a pound of potatoes a long time ago, or something else along the line there. If we needed something, she would do it. She would cook 4 separate meals, 5 meals for each of her children, because they all had different tastes there. She would get up at 5 o'clock in the morning and iron our clothes in the room. In the apartment we grew up in, there were 3.5 rooms with 6 people. In the bathroom, there was just a bathtub. There was no sink. There was no shower. Everyone used the kitchen sink to clean and washing everything there, even as we got older there. My mom would get up at 5 a.m. to make breakfast, wash some clothes, so on and so forth, to get everything ready. My mom was a very giving person in terms of material world, but if I asked my mom to touch me, it was like coldness. And if I put my arms around my mom, she put my arms around me, it's as if I was holding a robot. There was no warmth. And all of her boys needed warmth. So my mom is 89 years old. It's her birthday. 89 years old, I got to stay here. I keep on forgetting. I usually walk around. 89 years old, and her birthday, it's okay, and her birthday, and we're sitting around, and she says to me, Louis, my son, I have something I need to share with you. And I said, what, Mom? And she said, Louis, I had a dream last night. Yes, Mom. Tell me about the dream. Well, last night, as I was dreaming, there was a rope hanging down from heaven. Okay? When someone is dying, you let them say and do and experience what they need to say or do. If you don't believe in heaven, if you don't believe in ropes, that's fine. Okay? But that other person is processing something that he or she needs to process. You are not to tell that person, you're acting seriously, or not seriously, you're acting ridiculously. What are you talking about here? Don't you know that God doesn't exist or something? You don't get in a philosophical or exchange or anything like that. You accept wherever, when a person sees other people in the room, I see my daughter, I see my husband, stuff like that there. You're not there to discount that. The person is doing what he or she needs to do to process their dying. You respect and honor whatever that person is going through. You're there for them, not him, for yourself. I said, yes, Mom. And she said, holding down the rope were Joe and Eddie. Joe and Eddie being her two young boys who had died. And they're urging me to climb up on the rope and join them. And Mom has said for a long time, as she was older, I want to be with my children. I miss my children. The two who had passed. And now she had the opportunity. But she said, Louis, my son. She always said, Louis, my son. Never Louis, but Louis, my son. Louis, my son, I can't climb up with the rope. I said, why, Mom? Is it that you're not strong enough? She said, no. She said, because waiting in heaven for me is also Jack and Isaac. Well, Jack, I could understand, because Jack was my father. He was a very difficult father, a very challenging father, in many ways an abusive father. But we had an end-of-life exchange with him, too, which all that was processed. I had with him. And then I could understand it when she said, Isaac! I knew Isaac. He was an old man. Even when he was younger, I knew he was an old man. He was about 5'3", 5'4". And whenever I went to their house to visit them with my mother and my father, Isaac would be sitting at a chair with his yarmulke on and his tallis on, tefillin on, those are Jewish sacraments that you want to put another word there, reading from the Old Testament, this and that. And I just knew Isaac as this little old man, pious old man, who was always reading from the Old Testament. So why didn't you want to be with Isaac? I said, Mom, why don't you want to be with Isaac? And my mother now is 89 years old. And she said, well, Louis, something she had never told me before. And then I learned why my mother was so cold to us. And she said, well, when we were young girls, Ray and Isaac used to go into our room and do things with the girls that he shouldn't be doing. That's unfortunately very common, much more common than we want to admit. And one day, when he walked out of the room, Jaime and Max and Jake, different Jake, walked up to him and said, if you go into the girls' room again, we will kill you. So my mother, is getting close to the end of her life, and she's ending her life in a great state of fear. Because she did believe that she was going to go to heaven. That was her belief system, that she was going to go to heaven. There, and she wanted to be with her sons. That would give her some relief, knowing that she would be with her. Because when she's dying, she knows when I die, I'll be with my sons. Help her deal with some of her fears, some of her anxiety. But now this dream is telling her, wait a minute, what's waiting for her is pain, misery, control. She's not dying or going through her preparation peacefully. So I said, Mom, I do this a lot because I learned that my wife is a meditation teacher, among other things, a lot of stuff. I said, Mom, okay, trust me. Do you trust me, Mom? She said, yes. Mom, I want you to breathe. Okay? Let go of the fear and anxiety. Now, Mom, I want you to close your eyes, and I'm going to take you into heaven. I'm going to take you into heaven. So, Mom, the rope is there. You see the rope, and Mom says yes. I want you to hold the rope. Are you holding the rope, Mom? Yes, I'm holding the rope. Now what I want you to do is climb up that rope. Okay, climb up that rope. Don't be fearful. I'm behind you. Okay? And it's okay. I'm behind you. Now, go. And she climbs up the rope. I said, Mom, what do you see? She says, well, I see Joe and I see Eddie, waving to me, wanting to come. But in between them and myself are Jack, and Isaac. Mm-hmm. Mom, guess what? They have no control over you in heaven. Okay? They have no control over you in heaven.